Hey guys, it's Dave and welcome to the Weird Kid Show for another segment of Creator's Corner. This is Steve Cotroneo. Steve Cotroneo is a YouTuber that has the YouTube channel Grimwood Hollow. But beyond that, that's how I was introduced to the guy, was through his YouTube channel Grimwood Hollow. He subbed to my channel. He was encouraging. I subbed to his channel. I went on there and I was blown away with what I was seeing. But that's more than what meets the eye. Grimwood Hollow is the tip of the iceberg. Come to find out, Steve worked in the Hollywood special effects industry since he was 15 years old. That means he didn't even go to college. He worked as an apprentice while he was in high school and then hit the ground running when he graduated and worked on some high, big budget film. Anyways, without further ado, please welcome Steve Cotroneo. Hey guys, everybody, thank you for joining us here for another episode of the Creator's Corner. This is Dave from the Weird Kid Show, and we've got Steve Cotroneo with us here today from Grimwood Hollow, among other things. Hey Steve, thanks man so much for being here today.
Hey, Dave. Great to see you, and thank you for having me on, man. It's an honor. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll have something left to talk about, because what the viewers don't know is we've been sitting here BSing for probably a good 30 minutes already, and so
we'll warm up.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm trying to remember even how I even came across your site, but I think it was the Oddities.
Okay.
Your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And so you and your wife, Nicole, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got the Grimwood Hollow YouTube channel, but you also run a Facebook store called Autumn's Oddities, correct?
Yes.
And the candle shop, which is I know it's something crows. Forgive me. What is it?
Yeah, it's a Laughing Crow Candle Company.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it was the Gaff Oddities that you make yourself, and there, I got to say, we're going to talk about that, but I'll tell you what, unbelievable. And
well,
not
thanks,
only unbelievable, man. Like let's talk about just like the shrunken heads alone. I make shrunken heads. I use polymer clay and faux hair and stuff. I get like extensions and stuff like that. I love that stuff, but you took it to the extreme because you actually did the research and you ordered all the actual raw materials. The only thing you didn't get was the actual real human head to, you know, you didn't put the stones in and boil it and shrink it down, but you got literally everything else.
Yeah, the rest is all legit, all imported from Ecuador and Peru, and I just wanted to try to make them as authentic as possible without having the real thing, you know?
But there's so many. You're like an onion, Steve, and I don't know, the viewers have no idea how much there is to Steve Cotroneo. Okay, but before we get into that, let's go to the beginning.
Okay.
A little young Steve Cotroneo, no tattoos and no green mohawk, just a normal little kid. Or when you were normal before you got corrupted.
Yes.
What happened? What were you doing? What were you watching, reading? What did you experience that brought you on the path that you are now?
Oh man, luckily I was corrupted at a very young age. Thank God. It started, seriously, it started really early for me. I just remember, and I'm sure a lot of guys who went a similar path as me, we probably all have very similar stories, probably even yourself, I mean, it all kind of started with my love of horror and Halloween, I remember as a tiny little kid, even just seeing the movie trailers coming on TV for like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Alien and all these, awesome horror movies in the 70s, Jaws and stuff. I mean, I was a little kid, but it made an impression on me. I mean, I was watching those trailers, and as soon as the trailer was over, I would sit down with a pad of paper and crayons, and I would try to draw what I think was going to happen in that movie. And so I'd end up with like, you know, bloody sharks and dinosaurs and serial killer creatures and monsters and just like the most twisted little drawings as a kid. Dude, I still have a lot of these drawings too. It's hilarious. But
you must have you must have like really worried your parents, man. Must have we're really concerned about our son.
You know, it's funny. It's my parents were always so cool and so supportive, and it's really funny too because I grew up in actually a very strong Christian household. My parents, you know, they had me at church every single weekend and church summer camps, and I was super involved with the church. But at the same time, I remember as a little tiny child just sitting there watching The Exorcist with my mom, you know, as like a little kid. So it was really funny. They were real strict in some ways, but in other ways, I think they allowed me just to express my creativity, and they nurtured that. And I think the big difference was when I was into these things as a little child, you know, into horror movies, and a huge influence for me was the Ray Harryhausen films. I loved watching all those little stop motion monsters he did and everything, and those made a massive impression on me too. But what it was for me, it wasn't like I was super obsessed or excited about gore and violence. Not at all. In fact, whatever about that. I wanted to know how this stuff was made. That's what really excited me, was how was that monster made? How was that head cut off? Did that alien pop out of that person's chest? I even as a really tiny child, it just fascinated me and intrigued me. And that's what really lit that spark in me, was I want to know how this movie magic was made. And so, of course, the horror and Halloween always went hand in hand, because at Halloween time, that's where you could make monsters and express
avenues.
Exactly. And explore that and express yourself and try to create things like that. So, so from very early on, being influenced by all these awesome 70s and 80s horror movies, I started just trying to make stuff myself, try to learn things myself, learn how to create things. And then I started applying those to my yard at Halloween time. And that was kind of where I got to practice these things, was starting to create little yard displays and costumes and masks and things. And again, like from very early on, I knew what I wanted to do. Like it was as soon as I was old enough to kind of understand what special effects were, I knew that's what I wanted to do for a living. I'm like, that's it. That's the path I'm going on. And I'm not going to stop until I achieve it. I want to be an effects artist. But I didn't know exactly how it was done still, right? I mean, these were the days before YouTube, before the internet. You couldn't just go online and type in, how to make molds, how to do a head cast, how to, create special effects. Now you can, but back then there wasn't anything like that. There was the Dick Smith makeup handbook. There was like one or two books out by Tom Savini. There were, in the 80s, finally a couple of VHS tapes came out from Michael Burnett Productions. But it was really limited as far as what was out there and how you could really learn this stuff. So I still didn't have a real good grasp as to how effects were done. And in the early 80s, like I mentioned, I was super influenced by Ray Harryhausen, and I realized everything he was doing was from stop motion animation. That was how he was pulling off effects. And so in my little tiny kid brain, I thought, oh, that must be how everything is done in movies. It's all stop motion animation.
Yeah.
And so when I was 9 or 10 years old, I grabbed my dad's little Super 8 camera and I started playing around with it and started filming my own Super 8 stop motion movies. And then when I was 11 years old in the summer of 1983, so I was like 10 or 11, my grandma found out that a local college was was going to have stop motion animation classes as a course there over the summer. And she actually called them up and said, hey, my 11-year-old grandson wants to do this, wants to learn so bad. Can he actually enroll in this college class? And they gave me permission to do it. And I actually took a stop motion animation class when I was 11 years old at a college. And that was literally kind of like my first introduction and taste of movie magic and learning how to do effects. And so that's kind of how it all started. I started doing little stop motion movies on my Super 8 camera, which, dude, I just found a bunch of them that I transferred onto DVD, and I'm gonna put them on YouTube.
Oh, you got to do that. You got to put them on YouTube. I can't wait.
Yeah,
do it like now. As soon as we're done talking, you should do it.
I'm absolutely gonna do it. And anyway, yeah. So I was excited. I found those. I'm gonna post them soon. And then I was just doing my own little stop motion movies and doing my Halloween displays. And that was kind of the beginning of it all, you know, trying anything I could to learn this stuff and learn how to do special effects.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But you went on to actually do it. I mean, I don't want to be what the people probably don't know, we haven't got to yet, and you've probably worked on, let's just say, 50 films.
Yeah, that's at least that. It's you're probably looking at my IMDb list. That's just ones that have appeared on IMDb, and there's probably another dozen or probably more than a dozen movies that I worked on as well that just aren't on my IMDb page.
Okay, but not just like you know, the sci-fi flavor of the week stuff. I mean, you worked on I mean, come on, and back in 1988 you worked on Phantasm 2.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna get it. We're gonna talk about these now, and I'm gonna pick out the real ones that you know, I'm being selfish here. We're gonna talk about the ones that you worked on. The Abyss.
Yep.
Halloween 5.
Yes, sir.
Hook.
Yeah.
Batman Returns. Freddy's Dead. I mean, I can go on and on, but you know, Deep Star 6. That's a film that actually is kind of I like that film. I like that film.
Cool.
Yeah. But anyways, so what at what point in time? What was the burning bush? I guess I like to say, like, what happened to where the opportunity was there and it presented itself to where you could well, first of all, what was Phantasm the first film that you got the opportunity to work on, or did you?
Yeah. So the way that all happened was just a crazy fluke thing. So there I was, you know, a little teenage kid. I knew what I wanted to do, but back then I didn't know what the right avenue was. I didn't know what the right path was. And so I always thought, like, you know, I guess like most people, I'll do the best I can in school, and then I'll try to go to college. I'll try to find a college that maybe has some good courses in movie making. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's some special effects courses. I honestly didn't even know. I didn't know if there was anything like that in college, but I didn't know any other path to take. I was just kind of doing my thing. And I was just trying to learn everything on my own. And I had a friend in high school, and he obviously knew how crazy I was about horror movies and Halloween and special effects. He had been watching me for years because he's my good friend. He'd been watching me for years, you know, trying to do special effects stuff, making masks and monsters and blood and gore, and, you know, just trying to create this stuff, right? And he's a really good buddy of mine. And anyways, he took a summer job at Baskin Robbins 31 Flavors, which was a little ice cream joint here in California.
Uh-huh.
And he was working in this ice cream shop, and all of a sudden this loudmouth, obnoxious dude walks into the ice cream shop, and he's totally showboating. He's sitting there going, yeah, he's like, you know, he sits down at a table eating his ice cream, and he's talking to his friend across from him at this table,
Yeah.
but he's talking in a way to where he knows everybody in the entire little ice cream shop can hear him, you know?
Yeah.
He's sitting there going, yeah, this is going to be, real cool working on Phantasm 2. This is going to be a real cool job working on this new movie. He's just totally bragging, right?
Yeah.
Well, my buddy who's working in the ice cream shop overheard him. And my buddy is a massive fan of the original Phantasm from '79. So my buddy walks over to him and goes, hey, so I just heard you saying you guys are going to be working on Phantasm 2. Is there a part 2 coming out? And sure enough, this guy was a special effects artist, and he just locked in the gig to do Phantasm 2, do all of the flying deadly spheres for it, and all of the what would be called the mechanical effects and physical effects for that film. So my friend, being a great friend, goes, hey, I've got this buddy Steve, and he is like on fire to do special effects. He's already been learning stuff on his own. He does all these crazy Halloween displays. He's making masks and doing all this stuff. Would you be willing to meet him? Like, could he come meet with you sometime, check out your shop or whatever? And this guy was like, heck yeah, bring him down. So he got his number. I called him up immediately. And literally the next day, I was standing in this special effects shop, which just happened to be in my hometown of Whittier, where I grew up. So it was right there in my hometown. And I walked in and I met this guy, and he had props from, I mean, almost every horror movie and sci-fi movie you can think of all over this shop. And it was a tiny little shop. I mean, it was ridiculous. You'd drive right by it and never even know it was there. It was just a little hole-in-the-wall shop. But he had some of the most iconic props from movies you couldn't even imagine. Nightmare on Elm Street and Ghostbusters and Star Wars and King Kong and Blade Runner, Evil Dead 2, and on and on and on. I mean, it could go on forever. All these props. And so you can imagine, I'm 15 years old now. I just started my sophomore year of high school. And here's little 15-year-old me looking around. I mean, I was in heaven, dude. I was like so starstruck, just looking around at all these props, losing my mind. I'm like, I'm in an actual effect shop. Oh my God. I was just freaking out, right? So this guy, I think, immediately could see the passion in me. And he just goes, hey, why don't you start working for me? Why don't, start a little apprenticeship, jump in here, start working with me on some projects, and we'll see where it goes, And of course, I'm like, yes, losing my mind, right?
Yeah.
And so, of course, that's what I did. And so, my sophomore year in high school, I would go to school all day. I'd come home, and then I would jump on my skateboard and skateboard straight over that effect shop. And I'd work there as late as I possibly could until my parents were screaming at me to come home or something.
Yeah.
And then I'd work there on the weekends. And then, of course, during summer, I worked there nonstop, pretty much all summer long and everything. And I ended up working for him for over 4 years, became his main artist, his shop foreman, and became like his main guy at his shop for 4 years. And it was that was kind of the beginning of my special effects career. So yeah, it was a crazy thing because I had to make some kind of crazy decisions too. And looking back on it, I mean, I wouldn't change anything. I really wouldn't. I think I made all the right decisions based on what I wanted to do in life. But it was kind of a crazy thing to at 15 years old to basically jump into your career. I wasn't even done with high school yet. And I made the decision not to go to college because here I was already now working in the industry, working at an effect shop, doing what I wanted to do anyway.
Yeah.
And learning hands-on. There's no better way to learn, right? When you want to learn a trade, the best way to learn that trade is jump in and do it and learn hands-on. So even if there was a college or a trade school or something that I could have went to learn special effects, it's probably really limited as to what I would have learned there. And also, when you get out of that course, there's no guarantee of employment. There's no guarantee of job placement. they're not going to just stick you in Stan Winston's shop or Rick Baker's shop. You're going to come out of there with your little piece of paper, and you're going to be on your own trying to make it in this crazy entertainment industry. So I made that choice. I'm like, you know what? This is what I wanted to do. This is my dream come true, man. And here I am living it. I'm working in an effects shop. I'm learning everything I need to know. And preparing myself basically for my career, for my future. So that was really, those first 4 years at this effects shop were kind of my schooling. That was my training ground. That was where I learned all of the basics for special effects. It's where I learned sculpting and mold making, casting, fabrication, fiberglass work, doing cores, doing simple animatronics and all that stuff. The guy I worked for, he was just a real simple, quick kind of background of him. He was a professional magician originally. He then started working for Don Post Studios, making masks at Don Post Studios. Then he ended up at a place called Boss Films, where he worked with Steve Johnson. Steve Johnson and my boss were working there for a number of years at Boss Films on a bunch of movies, Ghostbusters, because my boss worked on Ghostbusters too. In fact, he had one of the original Slimers in his house that was all rotting away and crusty. But this guy that I worked for, he was known in the industry as one of the best mold makers, and was really good at fiberglass work. He did all the molds, all the fiberglass work for Pumpkinhead, for Predator, for Monster Squad, and for a million other movies. And so it was actually very cool. And I feel so, again, fortunate and blessed that I was able to start there and learn from someone like that and learn amazing, mold making techniques and fabricating techniques. And what was really cool is we kind of complemented each other in a lot of ways, especially as I got a little older and was learning more and stuff. I was more always focused on the art side of things. Like, I really wanted to be a sculptor. And I loved sculpting and painting and things like that. And he was a technician. Like, that guy had an amazing mechanical brain. Yeah. And so he was really good at mechanical effects, physical effects, and mold making and stuff. So it was kind of cool. Like, once I started to learn more and we kind of became this team, I got to handle a lot of the creative stuff, and he got to handle more of a lot of the technical creative stuff and engineering and things like that. So it was awesome, man.
That's so cool. That is so cool. And but that wasn't the shop you were working at when you guys worked on Men in Black.
No, that was quite a few years later. So the first shop, which was called SPFX Studios, I was there probably till, I think it was 87 till like late 91 or something like that. It was about like a 4-year stretch. And then this guy, I'll keep this pretty vague because I don't want to get into too much crazy stuff. Maybe this will be a whole other show we could do sometime if you want to get into some fun stuff. But I got crazy stories, man. And this first guy I worked for was a character. He was a colorful dude, and he actually had a pretty bad reputation in the effects industry. After a while, some things happened with him. And I think, again, I was a 15-year-old kid when I started with him. I was so starstruck, and I was learning things. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. But as I got a little bit older, right, when I was starting to become like 18 or so, and I'd been around him for a while, I started getting a little more wise to some of the stuff he was doing. And I realized he just wasn't the kind of person I really wanted to be associated with anymore. Yeah. So kind of leave it at that. So in 91, I decided to separate from him and just try to go out there on my own. I didn't want to be associated with him. I really didn't even want to have any ties with him anymore. And so luckily, as a little kid, when I was working for this guy, every single time I went on an errand, and I did that a lot for him, I would go on runs, picking up supplies. I was going to other effect shops all the time. I'd be going to like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember. Anyways, there were all these like local effect shops that we were always going to. Mark Shostrom's shop and Kevin Yeager's shop and all these guys that he knew that he was friends with. And when I would go to every one of these supply places and every one of these shops, I made contact with whoever worked there and networked with them. I made sure I got their business cards and I introduced myself. And I mean, I was this little kid, as a knucklehead kid, but I, thank God, was smart enough to start networking with people. And I built up this pile of business cards and phone numbers and names of all these effect shops and people in the industry. So when I separated with Steve Cotroneo, who was the first guy I worked for, I just jumped into the industry and started doing what everyone calls shop hopping. So that's basically how most effects guys survive. You know, most
project to project, probably.
Exactly. Yeah. Even some of the biggest effect shops, like Stan Winston's and Rick Baker's and K&B and some of these shops, you don't always have work. There's times where you're cranking and you hire on a crew of 100 people, and there's other times where the work slows down and you're down to a skeleton crew of just a couple people, and so the way these shops worked was anytime a good project came in, anytime a good movie, they would crew up. And so I would just be sending resumes out and calling these shops until I got a job, and so I started working at a shop in Valencia, which is up by Magic Mountain, which is a theme park around here. And it was out in the boonies. And it was just a small effects shop. I was doing makeup and creature effects there for a while. From that, it led into a pretty good established shop called the Character Shop. And the Character Shop, back then it was called the Creature Shop. It was owned by a guy named Rick Lazzarini. And he was one of the main guys at Stan Winston's shop for years. Really kind of revolutionized a lot of mechanical effects and animatronics. He created what was called the Waldo suit, or actually, I'm not positive he created it or just kind of revolutionized it, but he was really known for creating these Waldo suits, which were basically these suits you put on, and whatever movement you did, it would move the creature in the same way. And it was an amazing technology, especially for back then. Yeah. And so I started working at his shop, doing effects there for a while. The first thing I worked on with him was Hook. And then we did Batman Returns and The Sandlot and a bunch of other movies. And then eventually through his shop, I met a guy named Rick Gamez, who owned a company called Rick's Custom Props. And that's the shop that I worked at on Men in Black and a bunch of other big movies doing props. I jumped over with Rick and became his main guy. And throughout most of the 90s, whenever he was busy, he hired me on. And I was always his main guy doing all of the sculpting, fabrication, machining work, molds, and stuff. And man, we had a good run, man. I mean, we were doing...
you guys literally made all the guns for Men in Black, didn't you?
Yeah, it was all of what are called the hero guns. So there were some secondary props and stuff too, but all of all of those really cool iconic guns and weapons, the flashy thing, the neuralizer that erases your memory, all that stuff we made. Yeah, it was all hand machined, hand sculpted, and hand fabricated. And I think you might have seen my video I put up, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. I just recently, I've been sitting on a lot of video and photos for the past 30 years of my crazy experience. And I have a handful of videos of behind the scenes stuff on some of the movies I worked on, and I thought, oh, maybe that'd be fun to kind of post on YouTube. Maybe people have fun checking it out. It's kind of shows like the how some of the stuff was made and maybe a little bit of the real side of the effects industry. Be kind of fun to do. So I've only done 2 videos so far. One on Broken Arrow, all the nuclear missiles and bombs that we made for Broken Arrow, and then I did the Men in Black one so far.
Yeah. And well, not only did you that Men in Black video, everyone has to go check that out and watch that, because it's it's a piece of history. It's a piece of history for one. You got to live it. But not only that, there's something that's taken for granted that's not really acknowledged in those guns, and that's the little alien brain inside.
Yeah.
And you made those, but not only that, you show everybody how they can make them at the
Yeah.
end. That's awesome. There's a tutorial at the end too. And
Well, thanks, bud.
I told you, Steve. I like that so much, and I appreciate that, man. And that inspired me that I'm going to go ahead, and I think I'm going to be doing a video one of these days in honor of you and that project.
Cool.
And I'm going to expand on it. But we'll you have to, everyone have to keep an eye out for that. But good
Cool,
stuff. Good
I
stuff.
love it.
But you're not just you're just not an FX artist, somebody that's just working in the shop grinding every day. You also, like you said, when you were a kid growing up, it all started off with Halloween. You had such a passion for Halloween. So tell me what is or what was the Haunted Vineyard? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, the Haunted Vineyard.
Yeah. So tell us about that.
So that was my professional haunted house that I ran for unfortunately only 4 years, and then we lost the property where we were running it. I'll tell you a little bit about that, but yeah, that was kind of one of my lifelong goals. I mean, that was something as a little kid I knew I had to do a pro haunt one day, and I wanted to do it. I mean, it took 30 years basically before I really pulled it off, but or whatever it was. But yeah, as a kid, I was doing all my little yard displays and everything, and my cousin got a job at Not Scary Farm. And are you familiar with Not Scary Farm?
I've heard of it, and you got me the DVD.
Yeah.
That one year contest, and I'm gonna watch that to check it out.
Cool. Well, here in Southern California, it literally for the last 40 something years, it's been the granddaddy of Halloween events. It is. Knott's Berry Farm is a local theme park, and back in the early 70s, they decided every October to turn it into a Halloween event, and it's just exploded into the biggest Halloween event there is. And they have usually like 10 to 13 mazes. They theme out all of their rides. There's monsters running everywhere. Greatest thing ever. So as a little kid, my cousin got a job there. And I mean, I don't even know how, I might have been like 9 or 10 years old the first time I ever went there. And he would just meet us at the gate and sign us in. And then I'd spend the whole night running and screaming from these monsters. Like, I loved it. I had a blast. I loved it, but it did scare me too. I was just a little kid. And so I remember running through the ghost town and these monsters jumping out at me and scaring me. And I was hooked. I was so hooked. I loved it. And I'm like, I got to go to more haunted houses. And I started going to we had these March of Dimes haunted houses, different charity haunted houses and stuff. And I couldn't get enough of them. And so anyway, I knew that I always had to do a professional haunt. One day I just had to. I wanted to do it so bad. And so for years though, I just kept doing my yard haunts. And then of course I got into the effects industry, and that really became like my main focus, because that was my love, my passion. That's what I wanted to do as a career.
Yeah.
And I had to really stay focused on that. And so I was hustling to always work in the effects industry. And then I even opened my own effects shop for a while. I had a business partner for a while. We had our own effects shop for, I don't even know, 10, 12 years or something like that. And we were doing that. And then in the mid 90s, because which I'm sure, I think you talked to Steve Johnson a little bit about this, but anybody that came from kind of the heyday of the effects industry, like the 80s especially, I came in at the tail end, but I still got to ride that wave a little bit, which was awesome. I came in at 87 when I started working on it, and it was still good for a good 5 or 6 years. Effects were practical effects were huge then, but as you know, then Terminator 2 happened and Jurassic Park happened.
Yeah.
And those were literally the turning point in the movie industry for practical effects. Those were the two movies that really proved out that digital effects can be done well, look amazing, and give you honestly sometimes a lot more options than practical effects. So unfortunately, for practical guys like myself and Steve Johnson and many other effects artists, it became kind of a scary time. I was very fortunate to still be able to work in a lot of these shops, and I was picking up gigs here and there. I mean, I worked solid on movies for the first 10, 12 years. And then, though, by mid 90s, the digital effects CG stuff had really caught on and really kind of taken over. Even if it didn't look that great, that's what everyone was doing. And so I made a decision in '96 to jump over into the theme park industry. And so in '96 I started working on for Universal on a theme park called Islands of Adventure for Florida. And I was one of the lead sculptors for Islands of Adventure, working on the Popeye ride, the Dudley
Thank
D.
you, man.
ride.
Thank you for your service. Because I live in Florida, man. I love Islands of Adventure. It's
Oh,
brilliant.
cool.
It's brilliant. It's great.
Thanks.
Good stuff.
I've actually never even been there.
Really?
No, it's
Well, you
funny.
did some good designs. I will say
Oh,
that.
well,
Yeah.
it was thanks, man. It was fun to work on. It was I had done a couple things for theme parks, even back at the first effects shop I worked at, but this was really kind of my first real gig working on a theme park. And I got in this shop, and I got hired on as the art production supervisor and the lead sculptor. And I was on that for almost 2 years for Islands of Adventure, working on all those rides there. And then that led right into Imagineering. And so that was a huge turning point for me because, as you know, that's where I've been ever since. I've been at Imagineering for 23 years now as one of the lead sculptors there. And so that first few years or so, maybe even first 10 years or so at Imagineering, maybe it wasn't that long, maybe the first 6 years or so, we were real busy. And I was really, again, just kind of caught up in that. And I still did some movies here and there, did some effects work and stuff. But I finally, honestly, I just got tired of waiting. I had tried to get a haunt going for a number of years with some other business partners, and it wasn't going anywhere. And I honestly just got tired of waiting. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna build this thing. I'm just gonna start making stuff. And that's what I did. I just took I took some of my own money and I bought some plaster, some wet clay, some latex, some polyfoam, and I was living in a little duplex, basically almost like an apartment, and I just started making stuff in my kitchen in my backyard, just cranking out masks and monsters and tombstones and all this random stuff. And I'm like, someday soon I'm gonna get a building and we're gonna put all this stuff in there and we're gonna do a haunt. And that's kind of how the Haunted Vineyard started. Was in 2001 I just started making stuff, and I'm like, I'm just gonna build this haunt. And then I started stockpiling all of these props and masks and everything I was making. And in I'd say early 2002 maybe, I went to a wedding at this 100-year-old, basically dilapidated winery and vineyard. Mm-hmm. And it was in the late 1800s to the mid 1900s. It was the most successful winery in the entire United States. Wow. It was called the Italian Vineyard Company. And this Italian immigrant came over, established this vineyard, built all of these bungalows, built a church that was perfectly replicated after the church in his little village that he grew up in Italy. He basically replicated where he lived in Italy right here in Southern California in Ontario. Wow. And started this vineyard. And again, it became the most successful vineyard and winery in the United States for like 50 years. Well, here I am in 2001 or 2, whatever it was, at this wedding. And I'm looking around at this place and I'm like, oh my God, this this is the creepiest, most awesome environment ever to do a haunted attraction. It had all these 100-year-old buildings that were all dilapidated and weathered, and they were built out of wood and river rock. And I mean, you guys out on the East Coast, you see a lot more historical buildings for sure, especially up in New England and everything. But in Southern California, man, you don't see 100-year-old buildings anywhere, you know. So this was rare to find an entire community that was like 100 years old. And so there was a mansion there that they kept up really nice, and they used to have weddings and different events there. And so there I was at this wedding, and I looked around. I fell in love with this creepy location, contacted the owner, and I said, hey, do you have any old buildings here that you can't rent, you can't make money on, that we could take over as a haunted attraction, and we'll pay you for, you know, whatever you want, basically, to take this thing over a few months out of the year to run a haunted attraction, and it'll just be like a little extra pocket change for you. It's a building you can't make money on anyway, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think? And he loved it. So he showed us this building that was kind of the old marketplace for this vineyard. And because all the workers, all the immigrant workers, they live there year round on this winery, on this vineyard. And so they had to have a market there that they could shop at and get their groceries and everything. And so that building that used to be the marketplace, it was an old, creepy brick building. It didn't, trust me, it didn't look like a Walmart or a Ralph's. This thing looked, it was an old building, you know, built in the 20s. And we took that over, and we built a probably about a 20,000 square foot haunted attraction that went inside and outside. It went through graveyards and cornfields and an old pig barn and through the interior and everything, and it was crazy, man. It was so fun. We wanted to take what we had learned in the effects industry, right, and in the theme park industry, all the techniques and stuff that we had learned, and apply those to a haunted attraction. That was kind of our idea, was let's not buy anything store-bought at all, nothing. Let's make everything from scratch. Let's try to bump it up to a level, you know, really make some cool stuff that people haven't seen before, and give everybody just a really unique experience, you know, something that they're not going to see anywhere else, you know. Yeah. I mean, we love all haunted attractions, don't get me wrong. We love it all, even if it's just a bunch of stuff bought at Spirit Halloween or whatever. I love it all, man. It's all fun. But we just wanted something unique. That's all. We're like, we know how to do this stuff. We should do it. We should make everything from scratch and make a really unique event. And so that's what we did. We created the Haunted Vineyard, and I think for its time, you know, this was before social media. This was still kind of, haunts weren't really getting super extreme yet. Now there's haunts that just blow my mind. But I think we were kind of at the beginning of some of that, where people were really starting to create things more and push things more, push themselves more, and try to create some really fun, unique attractions. And man, in the 4 years that we ran it, it was awesome. Like, it blew up. The word of mouth was amazing. The publicity we got was amazing. And there's still people to this day that talk about it and love it. I run into people at horror conventions and Halloween conventions, and they're like, Haunted Vineyard, yeah, you know, and all excited. And so that makes it all worthwhile right there. You know, it was awesome.
That's so cool. That's cool.
But they sold the property. Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah, no. So that's what I was gonna say. It came to an abrupt ending. That sounds like, huh?
Yeah, it did. There was just a big land developing company that bought the property, and anybody who was a tenant in there renting out any of the buildings just got the boot. And then they were gonna build like retail shops, office buildings. They were gonna put in a community college. And the heartbreaking part about it was, not only did we lose our event, which was devastating, of course, because I spent my entire life, you know, trying to create a haunted attraction, and now we had it. Yeah. And here we are losing it after only 4 years. It really was heartbreaking. But honestly, the worst part about it to me was those guys kicked us all out, and then they started leveling all of those 100-year-old historic buildings. I mean, beautiful, beautiful river rock buildings and stuff. And then the economy tanked, and they never even built anything.
Oh man.
So they basically destroyed that 100-year-old community and ghost town for nothing. And it's just sat there now for since 2005 was the year, our final year of running it, and they've done nothing with that property. And
it's still sitting barren. It's still barren.
It's literally, you could go on Google Maps and see the building that we did our haunt in, and you can still see the wooden wheelchair ramps, because we had to put wheelchair ramps up to all of our doors. You can still see the wood all there. It's crazy. It just hasn't even been touched since we left.
Wow.
Well, I shouldn't say that. It has been touched. They leveled all those beautiful buildings. They ripped out a million trees. There was all these beautiful old trees that were hundreds of years old. It was, that whole property was just untouched, and it was beautiful, and they just destroyed it, and they never built anything. Have you ever seen a movie about a famous racehorse called Seabiscuit?
Yeah.
They actually filmed some of that there. They filmed when they were showing all the scenes of like the Depression. That was all filmed on this property, and you can even see our haunted attraction building in the background. Yeah, it's pretty funny. But because it's one of the only historical sites around here, so they often film there. But yeah. So anyway, it's pretty heartbreaking.
So besides work, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? Because I know you came up with the name Grimwood Hollow. You got the YouTube channel, the oddity shop, and now you got the candle shop. But are you doing anything as far as haunts? What are you doing come Halloween every year now?
So yeah, mainly we're just doing our yard haunt now, Grimwood Hollow. I kind of for years after I lost the haunted vineyard, when you lose something abruptly like that, I didn't choose to lose it. It was just torn away from us. So when you lose something like that, you feel like it wasn't complete. It wasn't finished. You still want to do this,
Yeah.
And so for years, I still wanted to go back and run a haunted attraction. But I gotta say, as time goes on, I feel a little different now. I'm not positive I ever want to go back and do a professional haunt anymore at this point. It's when you're an art guy, when you're a creative guy, that's what you enjoy, right? You enjoy making monsters, you enjoy making masks, you enjoy creating the story and these set pieces in the environment. What isn't always super exciting for artists is dealing with the city and permits and insurance and fire marshals and everything else. Yeah. So there's so much that goes into running a pro haunt. It's the whole business side of it is what can be really challenging and really tough to do. And so you're trying to find this balance between creating an awesome event with rad art in it, and then also being able to run the business, right? And it can be really tough to balance both of those. And I think when I was younger and in better shape and better health, and I think I can handle that a lot more. I think now it's a little bit tougher for me to even imagine going back to. Yeah. So right now we're just enjoying doing Grimwood Hollow, man. We're you make up your own rules. You can do whatever you want, create whatever you want, and don't have to worry about fire marshals and permits and all that stuff. And so it's kind of fun just doing that right now.
Yeah. And you mentioned to me earlier about before we started that you live in an area of town where it's pretty much all like special effects artists and some like in the industry. So everyone's decorating on a high end level. On Halloween,
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Not everybody is in the entertainment industry around here, but you've got a lot of people from the entertainment industry for sure that are in the San Fernando Valley. So it's kind of next level haunts. I mean, it's off the charts, dude. They create entire stories with animatronic figures, and it's pretty mind blowing.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's cool. And of course the YouTube. You started. What made you decide to start doing a YouTube channel?
That's a good question, because I think now that we've kind of become friends and talked a little bit, I'm not really much of a computer guy. I'm not into social media that much. I don't really do Facebook and all that. Instagram. My wife Nicole handles all that for Grimwood Hollow and Autumn's Oddities and everything. I never was really all into doing that, but I started. I don't know. I think I just started watching videos on YouTube, and it was kind of fun. I was having a blast watching what people were sharing. I was having so much fun seeing what other people are creating, specifically their home haunts, their Halloween displays, and what people are making on their own. And it's just it's fun. It's just it's always been my passion, and so to see other people creating this stuff too is always exciting to me. I love it. I taught special effects classes for many years. I taught mask making and dental prosthetics and zombies and corpses and all these crazy effects classes, and I love teaching. In fact, I miss it really bad. I'd love to figure out how to do that again someday. And that was kind of part of it too, was watching these YouTube videos, seeing these tutorials people do, and watching people create stuff. I was having a blast, and I thought, well, I don't know, maybe I'll start sharing some of the stuff that I've been doing, that things that I've been working on, and stuff that me and Nicole have done together, and Grimwood Hollow, and even, like I told you, even my old effects work and stuff that I did on movies. And I just thought, I don't know, maybe I'll just create a little YouTube channel and see what happens. Part of it, of course, I think came out of the pandemic. I started the YouTube channel right after Halloween 2019. So I put up right after Halloween 2019. I put up a couple of videos. But then the channel was pretty slow for a while. I didn't do a lot. And the one thing that really kind of got me going, I think, was the Haunted Vineyard. Like I'd mentioned, I lost it so quick, after only 4 years working on it. And I put everything of myself into that. I worked my butt off around the clock, year round, to create all that stuff for that. It was such a massive undertaking. Yeah. And then to lose it after 4 years was so devastating. And I was for 15 years now, I've been sitting on all this video that I have, right? I had all these awesome walkthrough videos, and I have tons of making of video of me creating the props and masks and all this stuff. And I thought, you know what? This could be one more way to get a little bit of more life out of the Haunted Vineyard, by creating some fun videos that I could post on YouTube. And that way, anybody who was maybe a fan of it, remembers it, maybe they're sitting around bored someday and just do a search for the Haunted Vineyard. It's just a way for people to maybe relive it a little bit, to be able to go back and reminisce a little bit and see what it was, and if for nobody else, for myself, I can relive it. I can go back, and it was kind of a cool way to preserve all that and document it, because I had all this stuff sitting around on like high video cassettes and even VHS tapes, and that stuff's going to go bad after a while. Yeah. And so I spent 7 months in 2019, 7 months almost every single night and weekend editing that Haunted Vineyard walkthrough short film that I did. It's about an hour-long short film that gives you kind of the best idea of what it was like to visit the Haunted Vineyard, to visit our attraction. And it's kind of from the moment you drive up and you you arrive at the haunted vineyard, you go through our midway, you buy your ticket, then you do the whole walkthrough, and you get to kind of really experience the whole vineyard too, the area where our haunt was located. So it just kind of gives you a better idea of what our attraction was really about.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of what drove me to really start doing more on YouTube, was getting more of the haunted vineyard stuff up there, and then also just putting more videos up of the things that we're making, and eventually I might start doing more tutorials and stuff too. I know there's a lot out there. I mean, there's tons of people these days doing tutorials, and they're amazing. Like you can learn how to do anything these days on YouTube. So sometimes I sit here and think about it. I'm like, what do I even have to offer that people haven't even seen at this point? There's mold making and sculpting and casting and fabricating, and everything in the world is on YouTube already. But I've started to think about some things, and special effects tricks and techniques and different things that I learned specifically working in the film industry and also working in the theme park industry, that maybe I can, just throw some of that out there, and you never know. Maybe there's one little new thing that people could learn from it. You never know. So, and maybe that's a new way for me to maybe continue to teach, maybe I can do it through YouTube by putting some tutorials out there or something. So those were kind of things that inspired me.
Well, you definitely have my support, and I'm sure the other two members of the Trio Terror would, because I talked to you. They know I'm interviewing you tonight.
Cool.
And we're gonna get the word out. You probably want to join Facebook, man. You're gonna take the leap, and because we get some traction your way, because. I think you should have a heck of a lot more subs than you already have. It's that funny algorithm. I think you're like YouTube's best kept secret right now, because I think the stuff that you've done and the stuff you're doing is absolutely amazing, and you definitely deserve some recognition from that. And I would love to. I wish you would take. I wish I was a way I could come and take a class from you. Because after doing it for that long, since you were 15 years old, I'm sure there's many tricks that you could teach this old dog, So,
and I'd have a blast, man. I'd love to do that. It'd be so fun.
So, but anyways, I'm going to encourage everyone to go check out your YouTube channel. I'm going to provide links down below. Autumn's Oddities, go check out the work there. And of course, Laughing Crow. I don't want to mess it up again.
Yeah, no, you got Laughing Crow Candle Company.
Yeah, Laughing Crow Candle Company. And I swear by it, because you sent me a Michael Myers The Night He Came Home candle, and it was pumpkin spice, and it smelled like I like wanted to eat the candle. And I don't even like pumpkin. It smelled really good. It was really good. And so,
awesome.
Yeah. Definitely encourage everyone to go check that out. But go give this guy some love. Like and subscribe his channel, and go check it out. But Steve, I really appreciate it, man. I mean, we could go on forever.
Heck yeah.
There's so much. Maybe we have to come back and do another one sometime.
Dude, anytime, man. I love it. It's always a blast. Sharing stories with someone who has the same passions, and we can sit here and geek out together on it. I love it, man. So anytime.
I think we might have to keep it to a theme for each topic, because we can go at great lengths for each topic. I have a feeling, film industry, Halloween, oddities.
Oh, I know.
There's all kinds. So mask making. But anyway, Steve, I appreciate it, man. And like I said, maybe we'll come check back in you in a couple of months here and see where you're at. So
sounds great. Let's do it, Dave.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
All right, bud. Thank you. Take care.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Me, for one, I absolutely love hearing these stories. And really, if you think about it, Steve's story is a Cinderella story. I mean, he was a kid that was obsessed with practical effects, and then just to have the opportunity pretty much dropped into his lap, and then it should just hit the ground running and to be able to do what he wanted to do for a living. So I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I hope you did too. Please post down in the description if you want to hear more from Steve. I can talk to him. Maybe we can make a special segment that just has Steve, because I'll tell you what, there's a couple of stories I don't want to repeat that are just mind-blowing of things that happened in the industry during those eras, and hopefully you'd enjoy them too. Anyways, if you haven't done so already, like and subscribe and hit the bell. The bell is going to inform you when I upload another video, and there's so much more to come. I'm here to stay, you know. I'm like herpes. I'm the gift that keeps on giving. But anyways, hang around for a bit and then check out the additional photos here of some of the project that Steve's worked on. And until next time, guys, I really appreciate you. Peace.